Hello. I am I'm going through some things. Just it's still hard to to put all those words in a sentence. I just lost my father. And not to COVID-19, but he was in the hospital. That's why it's gonna be hard for me to go to the hospital because people too many times people go in the hospital and just don't come back out because the stuff that they do you just don't know. You don't know if it's better to just stay home and try to take care of yourself because for a long time black people couldn't even go to the hospital. They had to take care of it themselves because they weren't allowed to go to the white man's hospital. And then we had all these horror stories on how white people treated black people uh, in the medical field. So, but he was in the hospital. Now this is what happened. My father went to the hospital. I hadn't spoke to my father since June because when I went down there to visit him, we got into a altercation. He called me some names, um, accused me of stealing, accused me of lying, and I just came back and told him I'm scared of my father. I was very scared of my father. He had a gun. He would shoot me, and I knew that. He he would pull. He had pulled a gun on me before, but I got up and I told them. See, my father, he was. We didn't know much about our father. Uh, he's very personal. He didn't tell. He didn't talk much, and and I wish I had got to know him more because I'm like my father. We both were born in January, a week apart. A week apart. He was born on the 15th. I was born on the 22nd. Okay. Uh, it was a time. It was a time where I went for like 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe, and didn't see them. It has been times where I didn't speak to him for maybe a year or two. When I went and lived in Mississippi, it was like 8 months or something. I didn't speak to him. And that was just us. I mean, that's how we live. If I'm bad, I'm sorry that it was like that. But I lost my dad December the 7th, 2020. Did nobody call me and tell me dad was in the hospital? He'd have been in the hospital before and came home. And I wanted to believe he would come home this time. And how I found out he had passed away, my daughter saw it on Facebook. She got on Facebook and it said, "Rest in heaven, granddad." What? And she called me on the phone. I'm at work. She called me on the phone. As soon as I answer, she's crying. I'm sobbing. And I'm like, oh my God, she's getting ready to tell me something that I don't want to hear. I knew in an instant she was going to tell me something that was going to change my life forever. So it took me a couple minutes to finally say, Teresa, you got to hear what she's saying because she's talking and I got the phone over here because I don't want to hear it. So I finally put the phone to my ear, and she told me, "Granddad, Granddad passed away." And I'm like, "What?" You know how you hear something and you just like this, my ears is not hearing this. Who told you that? She said she seen it on Facebook. So nobody called me. Their famous excuse is they didn't know my number. But you just called and told me he was in the hospital the day before, after he had been in the hospital for about a week or two. She finally tell me. And the only reason why she called and told me that he was in the hospital is because my Aunt Edna told her to call me. And you know who told me he was in the hospital? My daughter. Oh, God. You know how you just think somebody's just going to live forever? But I was just down there 6 months ago and he was fine. You know, it was not like my mother. Uh, we didn't know she was that sick until I went down there and I saw her. But you still hold out hope that she's gonna get better, but she wasn't. And they down south in Mississippi. But you know, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. But oh my goodness. But this is my dad. I hate these things. Why do they make these things? Oh, you know how you see these things all the time with other people. You know, you know, this is the cheap version. This is nothing like the one they have for my mother. It was a nice small service. Wasn't that many people there. And I mean, he didn't look bad. He didn't, for to be 94, he looked darn good. And that's him and my mom. He worked at Chrysler for 35 years. And when he retired, he started his own business, his own lawn service business, which he had for about maybe 10 years. He was a very, very active man. You know, he was down there at 94 still cutting his lawn, still drive. I mean, oh, that's why it's just so hard to believe. But when the body says it's time to go, time to go. And so and we dealt with a lot of other issues. You know, like my older sister that lives down there next to my mother and father. She wants to keep the house. No, the house has to be sold because you're not going to have that house. And none of us here is moving down to Mississippi. We want this over with. It's not going to work. And you was in your 70s. What are you thinking? Who's going to take care of the house while you gone? Your son? I don't think so. And my father did not care for her son at all. Mama, daddy, they didn't care too much about people, period. But mm-mm, we're not going to let it happen. So we have that to deal with. I'm going to miss him. I don't care, if it's 4 or 5, 6 months before I talk to him again. At least I was able to call, say, how you doing, Dad? I can't do that no more. But that's just a little bit of what I'm going through. And it's one thing about, yeah, leaving this earth. It's going to happen to each and every one of us sooner or later. Somebody's going to be missing me one day, the same way I miss my parents. I mean, after knowing somebody for 61 years, it's hard. I've known him all my life. Now he's gone. Bye, Dad. I love you, and I'm going to miss you.